These attacks are an attack on the memory of the lost ones, are hateful, and a continuation of the genocidal process against Indigenous people.
Tonight, in a rare move, an NDP MP and Canada's special interlocutor team up to address residential school denialism. It is election day for the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations in Saskatchewan. And the Métis National Council is hit with another blow as MNBC walks out of a recent meeting. Tansei, good evening. I'm Chris Nachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. NDP MP Leah Gazan and Special Interlocutor Kimberly Murray teamed up today. It happened during a press conference in Ottawa. Gazan was promoting her private member's bill C-413. If passed, it will amend the criminal code and make residential school denialism, for example, hate speech. Murray was also there to lend her support. Earlier this week, she tabled her final report on missing children and unmarked graves. Historical wrongs some Canadians denied ever happened.
They are inciting hate towards them by claiming that there are no missing and disappeared children and no unmarked or mass graves in this country. These attacks are an attack on the memory of the lost ones, are hateful, and a continuation of the genocidal process against Indigenous people. Denial of the truth about the harms of Indian residential schools has a profound impact on survivors, their families, and communities.
Today is election day for leaders of the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations in Saskatchewan, with 2 candidates up for chief, 3 for first vice chief, and 6 for third vice chief. The ballots are being counted during this broadcast. Our APTN video journalist Rachel May is at the election in Saskatoon to bring us an update. Rachel, what can you tell us so far?
Voting began at 9 a.m. this morning and wrapped up at 11 a.m. We know there was around 1,000 registered voters. When talking to people during the voting process, many said they're split on who they think will win which spot. Each candidate has been meeting with voters, taking time to answer questions and connect with the 74 First Nations that the FSIN represents. The ballots are currently being counted, and the hope is to have results within the hour. We've been told that we will be able to interview the elected chief, first vice chief, and third vice chief following the announcements. Wayne Semaganis is the former chief of Little Pine First Nation. He says regardless of the outcome, he wants honor to be restored to the FSIN.
Well, certainly everybody knows the media that's going out there. And I have been a long-time chief and a long-time participant in FSIN elections. For me, I want the honor of the organization to come back. I want us to learn to do things right. And I wish that we would take the time to stop, address all our issues, fix ourselves internally instead of taking our dirty laundry out to the public. If we're a sovereign nation, sovereign entity, we need to act like that.
We will keep you up to date with the election. For more on the FSIN election, you can visit our website, aptn.ca. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
And we will bring you some of the results a little later in the show. Thank you, Rachel. It is another setback for the embattled and leaderless Métis National Council. This morning, the MNC announced via press release that an annual general meeting and an election for a new president is once again on hold. The announcement comes after members of the Métis Nation British Columbia walked out of a meeting on Wednesday. The 41-year-old organization has been without a leader since October 1st, when Cassidy Caron's term came to an end. Right before her term ended, Métis Nation Saskatchewan withdrew from the MNC. The Manitoba Métis Federation also left MNC in 2021, the day before Caron was elected. That left just Métis Nation of Ontario, Métis Nation British Columbia, and the Métis Nation Alberta. During a meeting in Edmonton on Wednesday, MNBC walked out over concerns with MNC's current governance structure. MNBC says it will not take part in an AGA or a vote for a new president. MNBC will decide whether to leave MNC altogether in late November now. You can find much more on this story on our website at aptnnews.ca. A law firm in Manitoba known for taking on class action lawsuits for Indigenous clients is rebranding itself. And as TR Wheatley shows you, it's a timely honoring for a well-known Anishinaabe man with a law career that spans almost half a century.
These logos in this law office in downtown Winnipeg will soon be replaced, going from Cochrane-Saxburg.
This represents the 7 sacred teachings. They represent as well like the TP or even like a fighter.
To Cochrane-Sinclair, as in Justice Murray Sinclair. Harold Sonny Cochrane says the rebranding started back in February.
Our rebranding is about honoring Murray's lifelong work, and that's what we decided to do, to honor that work. His contributions to the Indigenous community and really to Canadian society at large is unmatched.
Sinclair became the first Aboriginal judge in Manitoba in the 80s. He later led the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, or TRC, then became a senator where he retired in 2021. That's when he joined this law firm as a mentor to young Indigenous lawyers.
When Murray Sinclair first joined our law firm, I said it was like Wayne Gretzky joining your hockey team. His contribution to our firm has been invaluable. His mentorship, his wisdom, the principles that he stands for, it's all shaped our legal firm and the work we do today.
Cochrane says the rebranding is also a reflection of the growth this firm has seen over the past 7 years. While they are still a full-service law firm, they pride themselves in taking on cases that push for systemic change.
We are committed to dealing with addressing historical wrongs, achieving reconciliation. We now lead some of the largest class actions in Canadian history.
Lawsuits on issues such as treaty annuity and child welfare. Just recently,
we settled probably the largest class action in Manitoba's history, and that was a $530 million class action lawsuit that we started back in around 2018. It had to do with child tax benefits for children in care.
With 2 offices in Manitoba already, they recently opened 2 more in British Columbia. Cochrane says they started with 11 lawyers and have since tripled in size.
Cochrane-Sinclair is Canada's largest First Nation-led law firm. Roughly half of our lawyers are Indigenous, so First Nation, Métis lawyers. Over half our lawyers are female lawyers, so it's something we're very, very proud of.
Sean Scarcello is one of the original crew. While non-Indigenous himself, he sees the contributions both Sinclair and Cochrane have made.
When I was first articling, Sonny sort of brought me into the fold, I guess, and he was just starting out his practice, and he gave me opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to take on, at that time, what I didn't appreciate or went in blindly, important matters. Like I was counsel in the Phoenix Sinclair inquiry as a third-year lawyer.
Scarcello said the rebranding was a unanimous decision in the firm. Everyone here knows Sinclair's legacy is far-reaching.
How he has affected change, not just within the legal system, but to society as a whole. Yeah, it's just an honor to work with him and to know him.
This past week, the website was updated, timely as news of Sinclair's health was made public on Facebook by his family.
We did have that discussion. Is it appropriate to roll out the brand now? And after talking with his family, they agreed that now was the right time. So with their blessing, we took the website. He was very pleased with it, which is what we're happy to hear. But our prayers are with him, and we hope that he recovers fully and is back in our office shortly.
To carry on the work Sinclair penned with the TRC and the 94 calls to action. TR Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Important story. Thank you, TR. We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share with us, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. It's Thursday, which means our Truth and Politics panel is up next. We're back in about 3 minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back. A symbol for truth and reconciliation was unveiled at a Halifax High School this week in Mi'kmaq territory. And as CTV's Stephanie Seacoast reports, the art piece is much more than just a sign.
It was a project 3 years in the making.
That represents our land and our people and everyone that lives here. So it's a beautiful symbol of all of that together.
As a step towards truth and reconciliation, a permanent land acknowledgement was unveiled next to the front doors of Halifax West High School.
As students, staff, community members enter our building, it's an opportunity for us to reflect and know that we are all treaty people.
This project was made possible through a Reconciliation grant.
This sign is not just a sign. It's not just a land acknowledgement. It is a teachable tool for students, teachers, and community.
Some of those teachings are available by scanning a QR code next to the piece, which links to resources and information about land acknowledgements.
As an educational institution, we thought it was very important to add an educational component to it.
Project leaders Wendy Lawrence and Robin Jensen say it was a privilege to work with quill artist Melissa Peter Paul.
And be able to showcase this traditional art form that's so beautiful and so impactful as a way to connect the past, present, and future of Mi'kmaq culture here at Halifax West.
For the artist, she says it's surreal to see her work on this scale.
This piece here is probably about that big, so to see it that big is quite impressive. And this quill work is like really small, right? The quills are small, so it's quite an honor seeing something that size.
A sign of change for years to come. Stephanie Seacoast, CTV News, Halifax.
It's that time of week again for our Truth in Politics panel. On Monday, the special interlocutor for missing children in unmarked graves, Kimberly Murray, released her final report. She put forth 42 obligations on the churches and federal government, such as funding for searches and criminalizing residential school denialism. Jennifer Lewitz is with Pasquale Harbour Strategies, and Negon Sinclair is with the Winnipeg Free Press. They join us now from Saskatoon and Pembroke. Negon and Jennifer, thank you for chatting with us again. My first question is for Negon. The special interlocutor, Kimberly Murray, says the disappearance or deaths of so many children was deliberate. What do you make of that statement?
Well, it's about time. It's about time that we hold to account governments that acted inappropriately. But at the same time, it's also going to be very difficult to carry forward many of these charges to places like the International Criminal Court. So, but we have to use the language appropriately for what happened to children who were forcibly taken from their homes, mistreated, and then treated with utter, at the minimum, neglect, never mind the series of incidents involving violence. And so we have to use that language, and it's an important step in a direction of reconciliation.
Jennifer, we have thousands of suspected graves right across Canada. Do you think they should ever be exhumed?
I think that's a really tough question to ask, because I think it is really dependent on the nation that undergoes that work. We saw that a child's jaw had been found over a year ago at a nation in Saskatchewan, and some of the conversation around that was the elders and knowledge keepers saying to leave the bodies potentially where they are. And I think that's a really important conversation to have when we're discussing this, because people say, well, I want to just exhume the bodies so that we can actually see them. And number one, if you say stuff like that, that in itself speaks volumes on the type of person that you are. But also it just disregards entirely our teachings and protocols around how we deal with death. And I think from this moment on, how we deal with this is restoring the power back to our people and to our nations to do what they feel is necessary moving forward.
Negon, residential school denialism hasn't slowed down, and it's especially pursuant to the suspected graves. Do you think that should be in the Criminal Code of Canada?
I think it's a slippery slope, admittedly. I think that anyone who denies basic facts and truth are of serious problems, not just to Indigenous peoples or survivors, but actually to Canadians. The problem ultimately is that when lies are perpetrated to Canadians about what the facts of residential schools, and the fact is that these were not good systems, these were not healthy systems, these were not systems that were intended for the good of children, no matter how many people say it was for the intentions of good. It was never intended to be good for the the forcible removal of children from their parents alone. So when we continue to be debating the basic merits of truth, then what we are stuck in is really no movement when we come to the side of reconciliation. We're constantly trying to debate what is really a basic fundamental understanding of residential schools themselves. And that has been well-traveled, well-researched, well-talked about by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which should be simply enough. And so if people want to deny the basic facts, then they should be held to account. And in some cases, if they spread lies, then they should be held to account. But I also think that calling it a criminal code offense might be taking it to a point in which it's going to be very complicated to decide who should go and who should not go to prison.
Jennifer, how is all of this going to help residential school survivors, especially the families of the kids who never made it home? Do you think maybe they should be compensated over and above previous compensation packages?
It's really hard to say. You know, when we talk about residential school denialism, we have to look at the impact that that has on people. And I think it's really hard for us to move forward as a country and to move forward as a society when we're still, like Nigan said, debating or negotiating what are known as facts now. And I think that it's going to be difficult to advance reconciliation when there's people still negotiating the atrocities and the history that Canada has with First Nations people. So I think that that's something we're going to have to continue looking at, and the impacts that that has. You know, I think about the survivors all of the time, and people say, well, why are we giving more settlements? Why are we giving more settlements? But at the end of the day, that's really Canada's only way to quickly get some type of monetary apology over the line, because in every other case, everything is slow moving. The Truth and Reconciliation calls to action, everything else seems to be at a standstill. And I think at the bare minimum, the settlements are something that helps. But I think we need to look at the broader picture of how we're going to fix this and advance reconciliation and, you know, break down the systemic barriers for Indigenous people and the stereotypes and everything that exists for our future generations.
Jennifer and Nigan, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks.
Our spooky segment is up next. Don't go anywhere. Plus, we'll take you to Vancouver, where elders and youth are learning how to make some yummy Halloween treats, including spooky Banic.
So the ingredients in here is flour, yeast, sugar, no oil. We just did the bare basics. There it is. Spooky Banic all day long.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Pictured here from a galaxy far, far away. Hey, just kidding. This is from our studio today, and it's members of our APTN team that work at our main office here in Winnipeg. They stopped in for a photo and wanted to wish everyone a safe and happy Halloween. For the chance to be our next photo of the day, send us your photos to share at aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Over on the east, Charlottetown 14, Fredericton 21. 4 in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, Anujiwak 1. Gaspé 18, Quebec City 5. Ottawa 6, Sault Ste. Marie 4. Wawa 1, Thunder Bay 4. The Paw 7, Norway House 4. Gimli 8, Dauphin 8 as well. 8 in Regina, Saskatoon +6. Buffalo Narrows -1, Meadow Lake +7. 0 in Fort McMurray, Peace River +1. Sunny in Lethbridge at 9, Calgary 6. 8 in Penticton with rain, Vancouver 8 as well. Sandspit 10, Prince Rupert +8 with sun. Watson Lake -5, Mayo -3. -5 in Yellowknife, Wrigley -9. -14 Colville Lake, Palutuck -7. Baker Lake -10, Whale Cove -8. And Arctic Bay -8, Aglulik -3. Now to Vancouver, where elders and youth are learning the fine art of making Halloween treats. Tina House shows us all the yummy and scary treats.
Halloween is in full swing, with thousands of kids getting ready to hit the streets, dressed in costumes, and yards filled with ghouls, ghosts, and scary clowns to greet them.
Today I made sure that everybody was comfortable with making candied apples.
Here at the Aboriginal Health Society, Chef Ruby Harry is teaching a workshop on how to make candy apples and other treats.
You add water, sugar, corn syrup, and then you get it to 300 degrees, and then you put an apple on a skewer, you put the apple into the water, and this is what you come out with, candy apples. You can cut it up or eat it as is, but that's how candy apples are made.
Spooky fry bread is also on the menu today, as participants learn the art of making fluffy and light fry bread.
So the ingredients in here is flour, yeast, sugar, no oil. We just did the bare basics. There it is. Spooky Banic all day long. Here we go.
Tony Cairns is a regular and says he's always happy to see the great programs they offer at the Society.
They're feeding people, and they're making candy apples, and they're good people.
Chef Ruby Harry says she's so excited to be teaching these skills to everyone of all ages.
This is to ensure the community that it's a safe place to come and learn something, because candy apples is not easy to make, and it's super dangerous when you take sugars up to the 300-degree level. So today they felt safe making it. They made some really good candy apples, and they're going to enjoy it. It's super important because not everybody has a chance to come out and make stuff together as a team and build team in the community and let the community know they're supported and loved here.
And along with the candy apples and Spooky Banic, participants also got to learn how to make chocolate-covered strawberries and marshmallows.
Woohoo! Happy Halloween! Spooky Banic at Vancouver Aboriginal Health Society.
Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
There you go, kids. Make sure you ask your cookum to make some Spooky Banic. Now here's Fraser Needham from Ottawa to tell us what's coming up tonight on a brand new edition of Nation to Nation.
Coming up after the news on Nation to Nation, Mark Jahant has been covering Native American politics for more than 5 decades. We'll talk to him about the upcoming U.S. election. Indigenous stakeholders continue to discuss what should happen next and long-term reform of the First Nations child welfare system. We'll talk to the president of the First Nations Child and Family Caring Society about that. And earlier this week, the special interlocutor on missing children, unmarked graves and burial sites released her final report. We'll talk to Roberta Hill of the Survivors Secretariat about that. All this coming up in a few minutes.
Thank you, Fraser. An update now on the FSIN election in Saskatoon. Fabian Head has been voted in as 3rd Vice Chief. David Pratt is 1st Vice Chief, and Bobby Cameron has been re-elected Chief of the FSIN with 765 votes over Ali Bear's 258. Our Rachel May will have more on that story tomorrow. And that's your evening newscast for this Thursday, October 31st. Happy Halloween. We hope you're all having fun handing out candy to all those trick-or-treaters out there. From everyone at APTN National News, hi, miigwech, masicho. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next day.